Hey everyone, and welcome to the Shipper Update. I'm Zach Strickland here with the illustrious lead economist Anthony Smith to tell us a little bit about what's going on in that retail sector. Anthony?
That's right. So Zach, we got retail sales updates, and this is just one of those weeks as an economist that you just love. I mean, you have Empire State Index, you have retail sales, you have industrial production, you have housing starts, you have housing permits, you have the weekly initial jobs claims. You have it all this week, it seems like. So starting off with retail sales, this was a 1.7% month-to-month increase, showing a rise. And so I should also talk to this chart behind me. In this chart here, in the green line, we have retail sales in the green line, and in the blue line, we have van outbound tender volume index. And so looking at the two, there is a relation, there's a correlation. It's not going to be the end all be all for all of van volumes, but it's definitely an influencing variable when we're looking at what goes into those trailers and moving throughout the country. With that retail sales report, we really saw an increase nearly across the board. I think there's only one or two segments that actually had a decline. I think health and personal care stores and clothing accessories were the only two segments that had a somewhat subtle decline. So really across the board on all other subsectors, we saw an increase, showing that there is quite a bit of momentum left for these consumers, despite what consumer confidence indexes are saying about worries over inflation. Because when we look about the actions that the consumers are taking, they're showing that they're taking the action to make these purchases despite fewer stimulus dollars being pumped into the economy, despite inflationary pressures completely pushing up, these prices across the board. And really what we're seeing, the actions being taken, they speak louder than the words we're seeing on these surveys. So we're seeing these actions within the quit rate, those voluntary separations, showing that consumers are feeling confident about their prospects. They're going out into the workforce, making those shifts and changes. And we're also seeing that within these purchases that they're spending more and more and more on a monthly basis, showing that there is not too much of a concern on those action side. Now, of course, this is getting into the holiday season, so with this active consumer, we're really going to start to anticipate that this consumer activity is going to really lead into the end of the year as well. And as it caps off the end of the year, really going to start to ease in 2022. Maybe there's going to be a couple spikes here and there, of course, on a monthly basis, but really overall the trend is going to be a little bit more subdued. Still strong, just not as strong as what we've seen in 2021. The other big thing that we kind of have to touch on just a bit here in our next chart, of course, is industrial production, and that's going to be in the blue line and the green line, of course. The chart that's near and dear to my heart, FOTRI flatbed outbound tender rejection index. And so what we saw within the industrial production number was a monthly increase of 1.6%, showing that there was some substantial growth here for the industrial sector. Now, this is another segment where I anticipate there to be slower growth in 2022. Right now, we're still going to see a lot of backlogs moving throughout the supply chain for the manufacturers, those folks upstream. A lot of raw material still moving, manufacturing from machinery still moving. There's still a lot of momentum here that's going to keep flatbeds active. And of course, that release that I alluded to earlier on in this segment, housing starts, is also going to be another area that feeds into flatbed throughout the first half of the year, of course, in 2022. So really things are looking good for flatbed, but this is going to be one of those segments that eases in the new year, along with, I think, retail sales and consumer activity.
Well, I think also something to point out here is we're kind of running out of flatbed season. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think some of that sequential decline in the flatbed outbound, the Anthony index, I'll just call it, is happening, even though industrial production has remained, I say, pretty robust, especially for this time of year. Would you say the industrial sector is still looking relatively good, even though it may see some slight easing next year?
I think it is looking really good. We're still seeing new orders still in a growth pattern. We're still seeing business-to-business activity and business confidence really still pretty robust as well. So I think it's in a good shape despite the concerns, the inflationary pressure, the shortages, all these other backlogs.
Right.
So I think for sure we're going to see this ease in 2022, but nothing overt, no
Right.
recessionary trends I don't see in the makes just yet, but this is definitely going to be one I watch closely, as you know.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Anthony Smith.